And welcome back to the Acme's Funniest Person podcast. I'm Bryan Miller, your host, and here on the podcast we talk about an amateur contest at Acme that's been going on almost 35 years now, and we are here with one of Acme's newest MCs, my buddy Grant Winkels.
Hello.
Great to see you. Again, I know I've said it 10 times already, but congrats again on getting hired. Very exciting. For people, by the time this airs, you'll have done your first week here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
not yet though.
Not yet. No, you and Foser. We'll do an episode with Foser soon.
Yep.
So you and Foser and Emma Dollenberg.
Correct.
And who's the fourth?
Andy Duong.
And Andy Duong, of course.
Yeah. Who has he been on yet?
Yeah, we did an episode with him when he won.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. If you win, we always try to interview you, and then of course most of the people we interview did not win. I also did not win. I always like to remind that because a lot of people in the last few years have said they've been listening to the podcast. Some contestants have said that's how they got into it. They're like, oh, I saw the podcast, and so I learned about the contest. And I always try to tell people, do it. It's great. You should absolutely do it. But, like, most of us didn't win, so don't worry too much.
I don't think there was ever, in my mind, the possibility of even winning it, to be honest with you. I never even...
Even when you signed up, you were like, nah.
When I was doing it, I didn't even... It wasn't a thought that I would ever win it, and I didn't. So I was correct. It's hard. It's hard.
Well, I mean, and that's true of any contest, right?
Yes.
Like almost everyone loses. Like there's only one winner, and you know, some contests, maybe you're in a festival with 15 people. Well, because there's 14 losers.
Yep. Sometimes
you're in a contest with 100 people. Now there's 99 losers. They don't add winners. Yeah. There's only one winner.
You ain't first, you're last.
Yeah, exactly. So let's we'll go back to when you started. Now, so what year did you start?
Comedy,
yeah,
in general. I started at the very end of 2016.
Okay,
and then I had fits and starts on and off for like a year or two.
Sure,
and then really I started pursuing it kind of like a job in 2018.
Yeah,
fall of 2018.
Yeah,
because There's a bunch of stuff that happened. It's hard. It's just hard to get in a rhythm in the open mics.
Yeah.
And
it's a commitment.
Yeah, and you have to figure out friends to do it with, and I didn't figure that out the first time. I think it's a weird thing. I can't really remember, but I think I had a mindset of kind of just doing it alone and not thinking I needed anybody, which is also fine, I guess, but it does help to have people that will, in a way, weirdly hold you accountable to keep going out to shows and stuff. It's like it's a reason because I was just bombing so much.
As everyone does at the beginning, right? Like no one's good. Like I was joking with James Stanley earlier. It was like Brooks Robinson and Andy Duong were good right away, and everyone else sucked for a long time.
Yeah,
I'm still mad at both of those guys for being good that fast.
Yeah, and some people get it quicker than others. I think I took a specifically long time to actually figure out how to be funny. Honestly, I could have decent sets,
sure,
but it took me a good 3 or 4 years, I think, totally to. And every time I want to add the caveat that I really don't think that I'm that great now, but I feel more true to myself and comfortable, and that took me a longer time than I imagine it, or from observation than it looks like some other people have taken. But you never know. You never know what's going on inside people's
heads. Yeah. No, I mean, because you've been opening for me on the road for years.
Yeah.
Because I in my mind, you've been around like forever.
Yeah.
Because I lose track of time.
Well, that's probably because you were one of the first people to have me. You took me out regularly for a couple of years.
You hear that, Lewis? I beat you to him. I was first. I have good taste.
Yeah, well, so you probably have kind of the closest idea of longevity for my career so far, because you were one of the first people to notice me and start taking me out on stuff. So thank you for that.
Well, of course. I always say you're a Swiss Army knife comic, which I think is so important on the road, where it's like, oh my God, is this crowd a bunch of dumb rednecks? Grant's got it. Oh, is this a bunch of super snooty lefty 23-year-old socialists? Grant's got it. Is it a bunch of married people? He's got it.
Yeah.
We both kind of have a little of that. We can adapt, like that.
Yeah.
That gig we did was at Wausau it was like a nice club, that nice room, but it was like there was no one policing it, and it was just like the Wild West. That somebody shouted. I think a white guy shouted the N-word at you.
Oh, that was.
Not an insult, but he definitely said it.
Was that the one in North Dakota? That was the fireman.
No, that was a different. The fireman was different. That was actually pretty. That was that really beautiful room in Wausau. Remember, it was like
I don't think I've
stage.
done Wausau.
Oh, it's a different room. Eau Claire, maybe.
Yeah,
it was that really cool.
The Main.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
Remember?
Yes,
and
yes.
people were. you dealt with so much in that first 30 that I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, A, I'm glad he's doing all this.
Yeah.
And B, I think I'm going to have to deal with all this
Yeah,
too.
then you went up there and
And we both did. We both dealt with it. But no one yelled the N-word at me like they did.
No,
you
no.
were so confused. You were like, wait, what? You're like looking around. You're like, I didn't say it. I don't know who said that.
Lacrosse, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's totally what it was.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I don't even know. I think that comes from I have a need to be liked. I think, and I think sometimes that can prove useful when you're in a tough situation on stage.
Yeah,
because it probably leads you down some bad paths, but also it makes you adaptable. I think to exactly what you're saying. Just like you encounter. Like maybe 5 different. I was gonna say all different types of crowds, but like on the road in the Midwest, it's like there's like 5 different types. So if you can kind of learn how to feel it out, I don't know. You probably know.
No, it's that Midwestern need to make everyone comfortable. I think of like, which comes in really handy. Of like, I can adapt to the situation to make everyone comfortable. I actually think I'm trying to work my way out of. I think I stopped caring. I stopped needing to be liked in a bad way. Mm-hmm. Like, it's good not to need it too much because you want to do your own thing. Mm-hmm. But I found myself being, like, not caring enough. Yeah. And so I've really been working this year on, like, no, you should try to make them like you.
Yeah, sell it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was getting a little too, like, I don't know. I was getting, not edgelordy, but just like, hey, fuck these people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, not here, but, like, almost everywhere else.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think, like you said, there's dials on all this stuff.
Yeah, you got to turn this crank up and turn this one down a little bit. So what compelled you to start stand-up?
Just comedy fandom, really.
Sure.
I was a fan since being a kid. We always loved comedy movies. Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, super foundational. My parents showed me like Caddyshack and all this stuff. So it was.
Your parents seem very funny. I met your parents.
Yeah,
they seem like they've got good kooky energy.
Yes. My mom specifically, she comes from a family of 9, South Minneapolis Irish family. All boomers, like just kind of. It's like the stuff you would see in Caddyshack or something. I associate that with them because of their sense of humor and all that stuff. So definitely, and my dad's family in a different way, but they're a little bit more dry, a little bit more kind of, we'll say, intellectual. Sure. I don't know if either family would agree with that statement.
It's all relative.
Yeah, exactly.
More than the other ones.
Yeah. So I always had that. I always felt like I was funny. I used to make sketches and stuff as a kid, but never in a way that I thought would lead me to this or that.
Goofing around.
Yeah. And I like to make funny videos and stuff. I was part of it was some sort of state program or federal program. I think it was actually an Apple program. It was like this thing that they did where they tested out giving all these different junior high schools. And when I say that, I think it was 5 like across the country.
Oh, wow.
Laptops. They get so when I was in 7th grade.
Stillwater, right?
Yeah, Oakland Junior High. There were 2 middle schools and then the Stillwater High School. So both of our middle schools, the entire school got MacBooks in 2008. Like the year YouTube came out.
Yeah.
My entire class and the grades below and after me got MacBooks, or they were called like
the iBooks or whatever.
Yeah,
at the
I
time,
think I don't even.
Yeah,
it's weird
the
to
laptop,
not know anymore.
Yeah, the iMacs.
It was the white ones, like the very first Apple laptops, and the whole school had them, and it was so everything was online. We were one of the first, and now that's how everything is run. So it's pretty interesting. Also, I wonder what percentage of kids and teachers from those schools became Apple.
It's a really smart.
The brand
it's
loyalty.
like cigarette companies, right? Get you smoking Camels when you're 14, and you'll smoke them till you die.
Exactly. So totally. And I have an iPhone in my pocket right now and a new MacBook that I do all my stuff on. But so we had a video production class too, which was I'm looking back now. It's like it's pretty amazing to have access to that stuff.
Pretty
at that
cutting
young
edge.
Yeah. So I was like in 9th grade, I was making sketches and stuff with like, not the same shit, but analog, like iMovie, like the first version of iMovie.
Same stuff.
I
mean, that technology has really flattened the boundary between like professional and amateur.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, Steven Soderbergh like shoots whole movies on iPhones now and stuff.
Pretty
like,
cool.
So it's like, you're using the same technology that Soderbergh's making a feature film with.
Yeah.
So it's like, you go like, oh, we're just goofing around, but like, Yeah, but also you had the real tools, and
Yeah.
I mean, sketch is a sketch.
And to I think so that thinking back now to the stuff that I do now, like I've gone through periods of like making a lot of sketches, making a lot of videos and stuff, and that was kind of foundational for that. And then I always had a sense of humor and stuff. I was in a band, so I always had that performance urge, and then that kind of combined with a more deepening fandom / nerddom about comedy around when I was in college and then graduated college, just kind of gave me the itch to want to pursue performing comedy and try that as well. So I started by taking improv classes, which I think is fairly common. I think a lot of people actually don't make it to stand up from improv. I think a lot of people's foot in the door is improv, but then you probably get stuck there. Or
what's so different was what you find out.
Yeah,
right?
and the
Although
scenes
it's very
are
helpful.
It's very helpful,
extremely helpful.
Yeah, and I think it really helped me kind of teach myself how to come out of my cage, like on stage, and come out of your shell a little bit, because you really have to take swings doing improv. Whereas with stand up, you can kind of map it out a little bit more and know what you're gonna. The differences are obvious, but basically, I was pretty good at improv, and I enjoyed it, and I had a good group of people that I was doing it with. We would get up at some of the improv stages around town.
Did you do huge?
Yeah,
and stuff like
huge.
That?
So, and then Brave New Workshop is where I learned, and then you kind of realize that Brave New Workshop doesn't really have this is the problem. Well, problem. Yeah. This was why I moved away from it. Is there isn't a real big outlet to perform improv in the Twin Cities or anywhere.
Huge
really.
kind of is. I mean, there's other theaters. Huge is kind of the main one, don't you think? Because
yeah.
Workshop, people think and they teach improv, but they don't really do improv. They do sketch.
They're like an old school sketch review.
Yeah,
so
it's like Proto Saturday Night Live.
Pretty much, yeah. And then they'll put up that show for runs.
Yeah,
it's more theater.
With the worst title you've ever seen in your life. It's always I was at City Pages. I was like, oh, what's the new title of the worst title ever at the Brave New Workshop show? Oh, that's a terrible title. All right, it's always like some pun.
Yeah. And my phone is ringing. I'm sorry. I just want to. I didn't know if that was going to be picked up on the buzzing. But yeah. So there isn't an outlet. So if you go down the whole class process at improv classes at Brave New Workshop, then you kind of don't. You didn't make any connect. You met other people in the improv community through doing that, mainly your teachers, but you don't have a way to then be like, oh, I'm going to turn this into performing, which is ultimately, if you're that deep in it, that's kind of what you want to do. Then you have to make the leap over to Huge, because that is Huge Theater is another improv, an actual improv theater where they also teach classes. Yeah. And so that is really more of like the improv community. That's where you're going to get stage time. That's where you're going to meet active people in that community. And I did that, and I still found that there just wasn't enough stage time. There wasn't enough opportunities for what I wanted to do, so that I was kind of back and forth between stand-up and improv at that point, doing a little bit of both, and that kind of pushed me like all the way into stand-up eventually, just because you can get up on stage multiple times a night.
And it's so what I love about stand-up is the complete simplicity of it. It's the mic, and it's a person, and it's just one person. There's no group. I was at the Muhammad Ali Museum in Louisville this weekend. I mean, I was working at a club in Louisville, but I went to the museum, and it was great. And but I was watching it. I was like, oh man, stand up is really a lot like boxing. It's more like boxing than any other sport, because I was like, oh yeah, Ali would just like fly to some town. All he's got is his gloves. And he's like trainers and stuff, but it's not like he's traveling.
Yeah.
There's no production. And there's a ring. It's like we have a stage, and he's like, all right, that's the ring I'm going. Okay, goes into the ring. It's just me. I gotta fight that guy. All right, beat the shit out of that guy.
Is the guy the crowd?
Yeah, basically, exactly. The guy's just beat the shit out of that guy. And like, well, I guess we're gonna do this again somewhere else. And it's like, it's just you there,
and you really don't get paid a lot until then you start getting paid a lot.
You either get paid $5 or $1 million. Yeah. So it was So do you remember your first stand-up shows that you went to?
That I went to.
Yeah. Did you go ever see theater shows before you came here?
That's a good question. What would have been the first comedy show that I went to?
I'll tell you, mine was Carrot Top.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I was like 9.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
he came to like the theater, the arena near my house, and I got my mom to bring me to see Carrot Top. And honestly, it was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, of course.
It was. I mean, I honestly, I still think Carrot Top is kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Well,
no one else does that shit.
He's got a Vegas residency, right?
Yeah, for like 20 years.
Yeah. Guy's got to be a billionaire at this point.
But I remember seeing Carrot Top, and he had an opener. And his opener was just a stand-up, just doing, 15, 20 minutes. And I remember really thinking that guy was cool.
Okay.
Obviously, Carrot Top was what I really remembered.
Yeah.
But I was like, I remember even as a kid kind of proto-thinking, like, well, I can't imagine building all this shit and carrying it around and being like Carrot Top. But I was like, well, that guy just kind of went up and told some stories. And he told a joke about Batman that I remember thinking was really funny. And I just remember like, well, I know about Batman. I could tell a story about Batman. And it was more accessible.
Yeah. That's one of the main reasons I also... So I switched from being in a band to doing comedy is like you don't have to the scheduling thing, working with other people's horrible gear, and then you keep all the money. You get it's just your name on the check. So you're not splitting $100 four ways. $100 is typically might even be bad pay for one person.
Totally. And we always get a hotel.
Yeah.
They never get a hotel.
No, God no. And I actually, being in a band, I straight up have gotten stiffed. I've never gotten actually stiffed. It's been difficult to get paid at times as a comedian. You need to track people down. But we straight up just did not get paid for a gig that we were told we would get paid for one time it's out of business now, so I feel fine. Nomad World Pub.
Yeah, fuck them. Burn them down.
Fuck those. I mean,
that's a shitty thing to do.
Karma got after them.
Didn't someone drive a bus through the front of that place or something?
That was Acadia.
Oh, that was Acadia.
Yes.
I like Acadia. We don't want to besmirch Acadia.
Acadia's better.
No, not paying somebody. I got stiffed for the first time in comedy in December.
Oh, wow.
I got stiffed. I'm not going to say the name yet.
Okay.
But I'm going to put this person on blast
Ooh.
if they don't. I'll tell you off
There's
mic.
still a booker?
Yeah.
Oh, what the? How do you...
Dude, I was furious.
We should put him on blast, dude.
Oh, I'm going to give him... He's got a very brief amount of time to still give me this money. And then I'm going to be like, I'm putting your name everywhere.
Okay, sounds good.
But I couldn't believe it.
I can't...
I was like, I've been in this business for 15 years, and it was a very small amount of money for a small in-town set.
Okay.
But it wasn't like I drove really far away or something. But I was like, it's never happened to me before.
Wow. Oh, man.
I know. I remember there was a comic. There used to be two clubs in Appleton. For a while, there was Skyline, and the old Skyline partner broke off and started a really shitty club.
Okay.
And when that club was going out of business, it was near the end. The headliner realized that he probably wasn't going to get paid.
Okay.
Certainly not what he thought he was going to. Maybe nothing.
Yeah.
And he brought his luggage over to the club when I was looking, and he just went behind the bar and he took all the third shelf liquor and just filled his bag with all his liquor. He's like, yeah, that looks about right. And he just stole as much liquor as he could.
That's good.
Pay
idea.
himself.
Yeah.
I was like, good for you, Jack, because they were closed like a week later. So he probably would. He was probably right.
Yeah. He probably made more than he made.
He probably did. That club paid terribly. So you started. And when did you first start coming here?
Oh man,
even just as an audience member.
Yeah. So actually, I think because I don't have any memories of going to see comedy growing up. I think the first show I might have ever come to was here. Possibly, and I think
good
it was
chance.
I think it was like a birthday night that I was in college. I think it was a friend of mine's birthday. A big group of us came. It was Nick Thune.
Oh, Nick Thune's great.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I think Trevor Anderson was featuring at that time.
Sounds right.
And I can't remember who was hosting, but I'm sure I know them now.
Yeah, right.
I'm certain of it. And yeah, so I think, and then probably the second time I came here was a situation like that. I came and saw Arj Barker here one time.
Sure,
because I was a fan of Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah,
so that actually might have been the first time because I was probably in high school. But yeah, I mean, I guess thinking back, it was here because I never went to any theater shows. I don't think. I didn't think of that really necessarily as an option for some reason. I don't know.
Well, when you're younger, you can't get into a lot of places.
Oh, that's true.
A lot of stand-up,
yeah, it is an adult thing.
Yeah, and when I was in Chicago, I wanted to see stand-up, but I couldn't until I was 21 because all the clubs were 21.
Oh, interesting.
They were like Zanies was 21.
It feels like none of them are 21 plus now.
This
they're
place
mostly
has been 18 for a long time. Now, and also, you can actually be here younger.
Yeah.
If you have your parents have to be with you
Yep.
and all that. Because people, not uncommonly will bring, a really, 12, 13, 14-year-old. And I always love that, actually. Some people, I know they're like, was that weird? I'm like, it's not like they brought a random 13-year-old. It's always like this kid who's super into stand-up, and they're so excited to be here, and their uncle or their dad or their mom brought them, and they have great energy. They're always great audience members. I love what people do.
And going back to what you were saying about being Swiss Army knife, you probably should be able to perform in front of a kid. Even if you're still doing your dirty material, you got to be like I don't know. I think, but then there are some people who it's going to be awkward and weird no matter what, just because their material or who they are, and that's great too, because then there's humor to be mined there as well.
I would love to see Ahmed have a child in the front row. Yeah, I think that would Ahmed would just lean all the way into that. That would be amazing.
Great. Or I think someone like Comrade Tripp, or you just imagining all these different ways, because but then some people really truly get rattled, and I think aren't capable of really having a good set because they're in their head about it.
Now, I would get rattled if it was like an actual high school audience, like someone offered me a high school.
Not if it was all kids.
Like a high school lock-in type gig, and I was like, I will never do one. You would have to pay me $10,000.
Yeah. I was actually working at Skyline one time with a guy, and I won't name him because I'm kind of making fun of him, but not really. Because it is valuable advice, I guess. But he was he does a lot of cruise ships, and he was telling me how to murder for 6-year-olds. Like, literally, this guy was breaking down how to do comedy for 6-year-olds. I mean,
that's impressive in a lot of ways.
It is impressive. I was also just kind of like, this is...
Like, I never want to do that, but I know that is a skill set that, is so separate from what I do.
And this kind of combined with the guy's vibe and look, he's just... He's a cruise comedian, know, no shade really,
but
comedian
once you do enough cruises.
But he said the trick was, and this was what's funny. It's like he was giving me a comedy talk, and he's like, the trick is make a lot of funny faces, and it was a dead serious, this is how you kill for kids, and I was just like, we're jumping the shark as we speak. I'll
do that for individual children, if my buddy's kids, I'll make them laugh with a funny face, but I don't want to be funny face guy.
Exactly. And that is what he meant, but he was breaking it down for me like a seasoned vet,
That's really funny.
So I think most of my very early history seeing comedy was here, and then from that point there probably wasn't much until I was just in the open mic scene.
Sure. Do you think when you were here, by the way, do you recall being like, I want to be up there, I think I could do that, or having any, or were you just just taking it in?
Yeah, I think there was that, because I remember having that with watching, if I was in a bar and a band would start playing, I had that same feeling. Yeah. Because I knew I had been in bands and stuff, so I'm sure I was feeling that at that time, and just being you're so dazzled by it when you really aren't a part of the world or anything. So especially in an environment like this where you're really locked in at Acme, it's fully immersive, and it's just everybody's up there just crushing, and it looks so effortless, and it's just this mystical.
It looks like magic.
Yeah, really.
Because you don't know the nuts and bolts of how to the rule of threes and all these jokes, all this craft stuff that everyone's been working on. Yeah. And when you see that people doing all the craft stuff unconsciously, you're like, how are they doing that? It's amazing.
Yeah. It just seems so effortless, really, and
I think Acme makes it because like you were saying, the size and the layout. It seems both very immediate and doable, and impossible because it's I'm 3 feet away from this guy in his basement. I mean, we're just people in this room, but also what they're doing. How would I do that?
Absolutely, and it's just also at the same time just still being able to be truly a fan and not doing that analysis. I think you're just. You can be more. We won't ever be able to get that back as people who have just been so in this world for so long, or just so completely. It doesn't even take that long, I think, to really. No. You see how the sausage is made. You meet some people that you love, and then you meet some people that you hate, and it's holy shit, I'm fully in this subculture now. There's no turning back, and there's something beautiful about just actually taking this in as somebody who's not interested in doing that, unfortunately.
I can listen to music without having that because I don't play music.
Yeah.
I don't
have that anymore when
Oh, interesting. Because when I listen to music, I'm just like, oh, that sounds good. I'm not thinking about they did a chord chord thing here, and then I did a key change here. But I can't watch stand up, and part of my brain is always like, oh, that was an interesting structure.
Yep.
Oh, that was a clever transition. Oh, I like the way they worked that premise. I can still enjoy it.
And you can know it's amazing and not be laughing at it.
Oh, how often do you get off stage and some comic who like really very sincere? They're like, that was really good.
Yeah.
And they didn't laugh, but they were up there going like, "Oh yeah, what he's doing, that's interesting. That's real interesting."
And for them, it might be the 10th time they've seen you do that set.
Yeah.
So then they are just really giving you a criticism there instead, or a critical analysis, I should say. But like they're like, "No, I've seen you do that. That was really good. I didn't laugh at a single thing you said because I knew every punchline that was coming, but you crushed."
Yeah, it's like I would only laugh if you did really bad. I'd be like, "Oh man, Grant's really struggling. Everybody come and watch."
Exactly.
That becomes the funniest thing is watching your friends struggle, because I never like watching people struggle when they're bad.
Yeah.
Well, almost never. But when your friend who you know is good, and you're they're gonna be fine, and you're at some open mic or whatever, and they're struggling or they're having a bad middle set, and you're like, oh, I gotta watch this.
Yeah.
They are dangling up there.
Because then more often than not in that scenario, you either just went up and had a bad set or a good set, so it's fun either way for you at that point, or you're about to go up after them. And then,
like Tuesday.
You got to go.
That pre-Valentine's crowd this week was rough.
You have to go fight
the Tuesday
for your...
mic crowd was just like last week was great, and then this week it was just arms crossed, kind of a Tuesday crowd, and everybody who went up was like, "Am I good at comedy still?" It was like 13 people in a row said that to me, and to the point where I was telling people, "Everyone's saying it. You're fine. Calm down." Because a couple of people were like a little bit upset, and I was like, fine. This is not about you.
Yeah.
I even told people, go watch me bomb. I'm gonna bomb. It's gonna be fine. I kind of did. It was fine.
Yeah, I think I had one joke that worked, and then the rest, try again some other time.
It's always that's what I like about comedy. It reminds me. I used to be a newspaper editor, and the one thing I liked about it was when you had a bad article or you screwed something up, it sucked. But you're like, on to the next paper. No matter how good or how bad.
Yeah.
It's the next paper. And that's stand-up. It's like you can only dwell on your last set for so long because then you have a new one and then a new one and then a new one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the curse and the benefit
Absolutely,
because
it's so ethereal. Like it kind of, even with clips and stuff, it kind of vanishes into the air.
Oh, yeah.
But also sometimes you're delighted that it vanished into the air. You're
Absolutely.
like, thank God I don't have a... think if you're like a writer and you write books and you wrote your third novel sucked. Well, it's just stuck there.
Yeah.
It's just this shitty novel that's just sitting on a shelf, and if someone picks it up, like, this sucks, and you can't fix it.
Yeah.
It's
and
the
you
permanent record.
You haven't started your fourth yet, so you're just sitting in that that stew. Yeah, that's not great. That even happens. It can happen moment to moment during a set. One joke can crush the next joke. You're bombing all of a sudden, and then it makes it so that you don't get stuck too much in your failures, but I don't think you get to enjoy your successes very much either.
No.
Even the people who have done all these amazing things, very cool accomplishments, you'll be back in the trenches with them in a week doing an open mic together, and everybody's bombing again, and it's like at that point it doesn't like everybody's a Christian in the foxhole.
Literally my first show after I taped the Craig Ferguson set on late night. So I was in LA, tape on CBS, tape a set, and of course my sister was there with all her model friends, and we all went out and drank. So I'm literally at this table with all these models, and we're drinking sake, and I was just like filmed a TV thing, and I'm like, I'm the king of the world.
Yes.
And then the next week I did a show in the North Shore at some really tiny bar in like Two Harbors or something.
Okay.
And there was 6 people in this room, and none of them were listening to me, and it was one of the worst shows I ever had. And it was directly after. I was like, well, which is it?
Yeah.
I heard there's a poem by Rudyard Kipling that I really liked. There's a great line in it that says, it's called If, and it's all about like learning to maximize yourself and achieve your dreams. And it says, learn to treat failure and success as imposters. I think, because they're never true. You're not your best self, and you're not your worst self. You're in the middle. The best set you ever had, you're not that good. Worst set you ever had, you're not that bad.
Yeah.
You're somewhere in the middle. You're just existing.
I like that.
Yeah.
You're always reverting back to the mean.
Yep. You got to try it again.
Yeah.
Now, the thing
and
about
incrementally move the mean.
The thing about a contest, which is interesting, is that it's the one time where things are pretty definitively ranked.
Oh, man.
Right? And that is the bummer of it sometimes.
And it's so... What I tell people or myself, or because I help run a contest, and it is subjective.
Yeah.
So you can't, even if you do well and you don't win, you can't. It's very hard to not take that personally and as a loss, but it is just they're people judging you, and a lot of the times they're people who aren't stand-up experts. They're just basically going off their gut. Right? Yeah. I don't know how the judging works here, but at like House of Comedy and stuff, it's like it'll be people just kind of in the crowd, or I don't know about
some contests. They will literally give sheets to the crowd members sometimes, or they'll have like celebrity judges.
Yeah,
Acme does that for the finals, but they actually have this. The celebrity judges they have here are generally people who've hosted or judged the contest a lot, so they're pretty savvy. And a lot of times it's like
that's good.
Patrick Strait, from Racket, and used to be City Pages. So he writes about he knows comedy.
Yeah.
Or Justin, who hosts No Laugh Track. Justin knows stand up.
Yep.
And even the early nights, there's only 3 judges. It's usually like managers or staff members who are here all the time.
Yeah.
So I think the judges at this contest are it's about as fair a shake as you're going to get from people who know what they're doing.
Yes.
It's not like some contest will be like, oh, it's the punt returner for the Vikings.
Yes.
And it's like, what's cool that he's a punt returner for the Vikings. But also, I'm not sure that Jalen Naylor is the guy to judge whether or not Comrade Tripp is funny or not.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. And you better just hope you have some punting material, I suppose. You know?
Right.
So it is. That is, I think, an equalizer for sure when it comes to that. But again, still subjective. Like, especially once you get towards the end and like everybody's kind of good. Mm-hmm. You know, you're gonna be losing on like small things. Maybe like a joke that doesn't hit. Maybe one joke doesn't hit, and somebody else has kind of a flawless victory. They're gonna get that, even if you're the same level of funny, even if you're funnier than that other person necessarily. So that's what. And the crowd, you know, it all comes into play. It's much harder to actually. I don't know. It's a coin toss. So many different things are variables that like kind of anybody could win one.
Totally.
You know
and
what
especially
I mean?
This contest. And this is something I've talked to Lewis about before, because one time I asked him, I was like, well, how come you don't do in the finals, say, you do 5 minutes or 7 minutes? Because a lot of contests will do that. Short early round, longer later round, which makes sense.
Yep.
It does make sense. And for new comics can be a huge difference maker. Some people might have a killer 3, but their 7 is loose, you know? But I asked Lewis about that, and he goes, no. This is an amateur contest. He's like, if people want to be pros, they should keep showing up. But he goes, I don't want someone to have the advantage that he likes the randomness of the 3 minutes, because anybody can win in 3 minutes. Somebody could have worked all year on open mics and then really developed a real act. But if you got somebody who's pretty new, but they have a good charisma and they've got a really funny 3-minute story, they can kick the shit out of people.
Yeah.
I mean, you get people who've never basically done comedy, you know, and you're just like...
Or they only come out for the contest. Yeah. There's a lot of people who do that. Have you talked about that on the stuff?
Yeah, we were talking to James about that a little bit.
There's like a little rotation of people who just come out and do the contest, and they're good. They're good at doing the contest.
It kind of makes you wonder, like, well, don't you want to do this in between contests? Because it's funny, because the people who do comedy often treat contests as like a necessary evil. Yeah. And then these people are treating contests as the be-all, end-all.
And just,
which is fine.
Like, are they just doing it for fun? I have no idea. Because my mind doesn't... I would never do that. I would never do a contest if I didn't see some sort of... gain from it, you know what I mean?
Right, like if there was a poetry contest and I decided to enter it, I'm not just going to do that and then quit. Like, clearly I must be trying to be a poet. I'm going to keep writing more poetry. I'm not just going to enter the poetry contest. I'll give this a whirl.
People who like actually have hobbies, it just blows my mind.
I know.
I think I'm a obsessive person, so if I have something that starts as a hobby, I'm gonna wear it out. You know, I'm gonna go too deep on it, and here we are.
Yeah, Dana Gould used to say, he's my favorite comic. Dana says, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something like he goes, if you make your hobby what you do, so people say if you make your hobby, you'll never work a day in your life. And he goes, or you'll work every single fucking second that you ever live. And that's kind of, it is both, right? Because it's like, well, I obviously would rather be doing this than like a zillion other jobs.
Yep.
But there's no, like, now that your hobby and your job, it's like, ooh, you're just doing the thing.
And then if you're kind of, you are a little bit shackled to it because this is how you make money now.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah, and especially, I mean, I'm at the point now where I'm like, oh, I have to keep doing comedy because I'm in my 40s, and my resume is a barren desert of
Yeah.
real work for like 15 years before. Like it's
exactly.
like I think I'm in now.
Yeah.
It's a little late for me. There's a great line in It's a Wonderful Life when they're going to close down the building alone, and Uncle Billy says, "Don't worry, George, I can get another job. I'm only 55." And that I used to laugh at that, and now I'm like, oh God, I'm Uncle Billy now.
Yeah. Also, Uncle Billy looks terrible for 55.
Uncle
It's
Billy,
like,
I know. I was like, Uncle
you're
Billy's
so
55. You're a million years old. Totally.
Jimmy Stewart is 42 in this movie.
Exactly. That's totally true. 55. He's got to be. I'm gonna look that up. So you,
Mr. Potter is like, I'm 56.
The funny thing is, all those guys are probably the same age. You know,
yeah, everybody in that movie.
back in the day when actors like didn't. Now everybody looks 20 all the time, right? Because they're all on human growth hormone and they're not eating bread. Back in the day, it is chain smoking and drinking.
Yeah.
And it's like life caught up with people at different
really
ranges.
quick,
Yeah.
Oh man.
But so did you sign up for the contest like your first year of stand up, pretty much?
Probably. Yeah.
I
think so. I think
like 16 probably. 16
probably
or 17?
no. It was probably 2017. Oh wait, no. Okay. So it must have been 2016, right? Because oh man, maybe I did start doing open mics before 2017 because so this is what happened. I had started, it must have been 2016 because I started doing open mics and I was kind of in it but I was trying to be smart. I knew enough and I had gone to enough that I knew not to use my stars at the clubs yet.
Sure.
Because I wanted to get better at bar shows. Like
Sure.
I at least had some strategy. And I was doing that. And I was also nervous. I wasn't comfortable. So coming to Acme, I really didn't feel, especially at the clubs, you can feel the presence of the scene a lot. And the hang, especially when you're brand new, it's intimidating.
Chad Daniels is sitting in the back watching the show, drinking a water, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. You don't know anybody. So I was kind of working my way through the bar open mics, and then I broke my leg. I was riding my bike. So I started in the winter. It was the spring. I think it was May. I broke my leg, and that completely ended my comedy at that point.
Sure.
Because I was so bad that I couldn't imagine being like the crutches guy
Yeah,
who was also
right.
just bombing.
Yeah, now you would be like, oh, I got 5 new minutes.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to be a stool comic for the next 2 months while my leg heals.
And I probably would pull way back too because I'm just that kind of person. Like I have some weird shame around injuries. And I feel like people just aren't comfortable. I'm not comfortable to hobble up here with crutches. I'm like, people don't want to see
You're
it.
ableist to yourself.
Yeah. And to other people.
And to other people.
But so I and that's a whole different thing. We don't need to get into that. But it basically cleared my schedule comedy-wise. I stopped doing open mics. I probably had about 3 jokes at that point. I had tried a lot. I was doing Grumpies, stuff like that.
Sure.
Acadia.
Yeah, I remember seeing you at Grumpies.
Yeah. So, but then so that was in May, and I had a contest date in June. And so I emailed and I said, I broke my leg. I'm not ready. Can I do it later in the summer? And they gave
Which you can totally do, by the way. I should tell people.
Yeah.
If you can, it even says on the form, no one does it. You can request a time window. Most people just say whenever, but you can be like, oh, can I go in July? And yeah, you can go in July.
Yeah, especially if
you might not get to pick your date, but I mean, if you want to wait a month, you can sign up and say, I'm going to be out of town. Put me up in.
And honestly, for me, it was really more of putting it off because
Sure.
at that point, I was out of comedy mode. I was already uncomfortable enough doing open mics and really not. I wasn't gelling. I was fine. I was struggling through it.
The regular amount of struggle.
That one does, but I didn't have a community yet, and so I was really just kind of putting it off. And I think I knew enough at that point is that Acme is a place where you don't want to you don't want to no show for sure,
Definitely.
even if it's at the because a lot of people no show contest spots.
Yes.
And I don't think that they would necessarily hold that against you, but it's just not a good first look. When you're the first time you're on the books with these people, and that's true for everywhere. Be courteous to the staff and the clubs.
If you're going to cancel, just call and cancel.
Exactly. It's not that will not ruffle any feathers because from this end you'd go, oh, that's one less person I need to manage.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't know, and I would never judge because for all I know, their mom's sick or they're sick or something.
Yep.
I'm not going to judge. This is like,
Exactly.
but if they no show, then it's like, oh, now I remember that.
There's always the possibility of that coming back to bite you in the ass down the line. So I got a much later date. I think it was in August, and then I did not do comedy between then.
Oh wow!
So the week of my contest date, and I'm trying to think if this must have been the first time I did the contest, because I was asking people for advice about it because I did a couple open mics before,
like that week.
Yes.
Yeah.
To like just kind of
get back in the groove.
Yeah, and it's 3 minutes, so I knew I had like let's be honest, that's like 2 or 3 jokes.
Yeah.
If they're good.
Yeah.
Or
if you were doing
with
bits,
laughter
because you do
and
bits,
stuff.
like you don't do one-liners.
Yes, no.
I'm the same way. Most of my jokes or bits are like 45 seconds to now maybe like 5 minutes. But at the beginning, nothing
it's like
longer
30
than
seconds.
30 seconds or 45
and
seconds.
then here's some advice also for people doing the contest. This is what somebody gave me, and it helped. Write out your set and then cut one joke. Because that way you're really not going to run your time. Like,
yeah.
So
that is good advice.
Yeah.
Because I always tell people, if you crush for 2 minutes and 15 seconds, that's fine.
Yep.
No one penalizes you for not doing 30 more seconds.
Yes. So I got that advice. I polished up the jokes all right, like as much as you can in like 2 or 3 open mics, and just got comfortable saying them again. And then I did my contest night, and I was doing really well with those jokes. And then I ran my light.
Doing too well.
Yes, yeah. And I wasn't my chops weren't up at all. I had taken
you lost
probably
your internal timer kind of, right?
Yeah, and I don't even know if I had one yet. You know what I mean? It's because it doesn't matter really. It doesn't matter if you're running the light at a bar open mic.
Grumpy's
where nobody's
just in the back getting annoyed.
Yeah.
You know? Chris isn't going to like throw you out of the bar.
Exactly. So, and what happens here? Have you gone through the cutting the mic protocol?
Oh
here on
yeah,
the show
and
yet?
then,
Like,
it's funny that some people with the open mic feel like you got to stick to your time. You can't run your light. But like, if you're just at the open mic on a Tuesday and you get to 3 minutes and 3 seconds, like they're not gonna like throw you off forever. I mean, they're just gonna be like they're gonna give you the flash and just get the fuck off. But in the contest, if you do 3 minutes and 1 second, your score's cut in half.
Once the light is flashing.
Yeah, once the light's flashing, you got to run away.
Yeah. And so I didn't even, I don't even think I caught my first light.
Do you think it was probably the best you'd ever done at that point?
Yes. And
so you're probably kind of high on the like, whoa, I'm crushing.
And I think it might have been the first time I ever performed here. If it wasn't, it would have been the week previous. But I don't even think I did that week of thing.
Sure.
Because I was so nervous and kind of out of sorts.
Yeah.
Or maybe I did, and it was just kind of like meh, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like going really well, and I like got tunnel vision, and it's this crazy experience because it's humiliating. Sure. I was so embarrassed. Because I was doing well, and I was right like. And then the mic is cut, and the God mic comes over and is like, "You gotta watch your timer." And I'm just like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna walk out." And then so Lester was the feature.
Oh, nice.
And so I just went out to the bar. I had friends here and stuff.
Yeah.
I did not join them. I went out to the bar and just started drinking because I was like. I was doing, and the manager at the time, that was the only time I met her. She's not a manager here anymore. It was a woman with darker hair.
Sarah, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like this would be like 2016 or 17.
Probably Sarah.
She was at the bar, and she was one of the judges, and she was like, "Yeah, you were definitely gonna win tonight. Like that." You won't now, but you were doing really well. So she was there doing a nice thing, really, like confirming that, yes, you were doing well, and but that made it so much worse because I'm like,
it's kind of out of our hands. It's like the one super hard and fast rule, which is you go 1 second over.
I don't. Looking back now, and I was ill prepared and not minding it and kind of not really. I didn't have that much tied up in it, really.
Sure.
I was nervous about it for sure. I should have been way more on top of it. Really, like looking back, I'm like, what were you thinking, man? But I think I got caught up in doing well. And it just
probably
like
never occurred
everything
to you
else
that
went
you
out
were
the
gonna
window.
do so well that you were going to
Yeah.
blow through the thing, right?
Yeah.
You were just like, no, this is 2.5 minutes. I'm good.
And what's funny now is looking back on it, I probably wasn't even doing that well, you know?
Well,
like, I mean, I was...
Crushing is that's a moving target.
Yeah.
Because you remember, you think back on what you the first time that you crush, and you look back on that, you probably just did okay.
Yeah.
But even now, like 5 years from now, you'll probably look back on what you think is crushing
Sets I'm
now, and
having
you're like,
now.
nah. At a certain point, I do think you top out a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
but even that's like you have to be in a theater in front of 1,000 people.
True,
You know,
yeah.
there's kind of always another. I mean, hey, then you can become an arena comic. Now
Yeah.
you're at the Target Center. There's always another level of crush that you can get to.
Which I can't imagine even knowing if you were crushing doing an
No.
arena. Like, how
I
the
don't
hell
know.
would
I've
you
never
even
done
know?
that. I've done like 1,000-seat theater a few
Yeah.
times, but that still feels weirdly. You can conceive of it because there's no one behind you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
the rhythm is different because the laughs, like you have to wait
takes
longer because
longer.
they kind of go in and then back like a wave.
Yeah.
But like once you figure out to like let the laughter like die a little bit,
Yeah.
it's not that different from doing a really big sold out club.
Yeah.
It's just bigger.
Well-
but an arena is like the ceilings are this high.
Yeah.
Like, it's not made for that kind of performance, really.
It seems like in a theater, once you're kind of locked in, if you get them, it's because I've done like a 200-person theater, but never like the thousands
Like
or
the
whatever.
State or the
Yeah,
Pantages
which
or something.
I would love to at some point. But it is like it's different. But I imagine like once you're kind of locked in, especially if you're opening for somebody whose like audience might know you,
Which
or,
is the
like,
only way
they're
I've
ready-
done
yeah.
those type of theaters.
So it would kind of, I imagine it can become kind of like batting practice because you just know, like you're hitting 10 dingers coming up.
And you're
after
doing all your best shit, by the
yeah.
way, because you're in a giant
And you're
theater,
doing
right?
what, 10, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
20 maybe?
Yeah, unless you're opening for Jeremy Piven. Then you
Yeah.
do a lot more. Let me tell you.
Oh,
Did I ever
man.
tell my Jeremy Piven story?
I believe so.
where
but
he
let's air him
Jeremy
out.
doesn't have that much time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was opening for him, and I walk in.
Time's up, you could say.
Yes, you could say that might be how he got there. But Piven's sitting there and he's all dressed up, and he's wearing his, he's doing his kind of California thing. He's no shoes on. He's in a nice thing. He's sitting cross-legged, eating sushi or whatever. And he's like, the lady goes, Jeremy, how much time do you want your opener to do? And I was like, boss, I'll do as much as you want. I'm good. He's like, he goes, no, I can tell this guy. This guy wants it. No, I can see. You want it, don't you? He's like playing me, and I know he's playing me. I'm just like, whatever, man. He's like, no, he's got the hunger. You want to do more than that. You want to do more. You want to do more? And I was like,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
man, I'll do as much as you want. Like, you don't have to make it. You don't have to trick me into doing this.
Just tell me.
And ultimately, he's like, why don't you do like 35 or whatever? And I was like, sure. I mean, I'm having to have fun. I'm just going to do a theater, you know? But then it's because he has 30.
Yeah.
He
Wow.
needs me to do more time, which is fine.
So are you helping him fulfill his contract then?
Basically.
Or- yeah.
It's fine, but like
Yeah.
I was just like, just tell me you don't have enough time and
Yeah.
you need me to do more. I don't give a shit.
Because it does become a little bit of a concern because at a certain point the audience is going to go, hey, this is going kind of long for like we came here to see a different guy.
Oh man, me and Steve Gillespie were opening a secret show for TJ Miller in Chicago, and TJ just showed up crazy late.
Yeah.
To the point where like I did a set, and then Steve did a set, and then Steve, because he hadn't planned on doing such a long set, was kind of out of order.
Yeah.
And Steve ran out of jokes. Kind of. I mean, he was up there for a long time. He's
Yeah.
like, hey, Brian, you still back there? And I was like, I got you, boss. And I ran out there, and I did like 20 more minutes. And people were just getting progressively more irritated that TJ Miller wasn't
sure.
there. And he did show up eventually, but, he's TJ Miller.
And then did 2.5 hours.
20 minutes.
Oh my
People
God.
were so pissed. But he had literally... I mean, talk about a good reason. He was like, I was just getting super drunk with Jennifer Aniston,
Yeah, well,
and
he
I
was
kind of lost track
wasted.
of time. And I was like, yeah, if I was drinking with Jennifer Aniston, I might hang out for
Yeah.
a little longer too.
Also, you'd hope, like, I don't know when this was, but TJ Miller fans are probably having awareness that that might happen.
He's a wild man. I mean,
Yeah, it's part of his
yeah.
persona.
But it was a midnight show. So,
oh,
like,
God.
me and Steve were up there I think me and Steve did like an hour between the two of us. And people were, at first, people really
That's
liked us.
insane.
And then
Yeah.
gradually they were like, okay, enough
I've
of these guys.
never hated two guys more in
Yeah,
my
yeah,
life.
yeah,
No
right. They're
matter
like,
how good you are.
Keep it going
whatever
for not TJ Miller, basically.
not the guy you paid for. Oh, it's 1:30, by the way.
Yeah.
It's 1:30.
I will say the 20
because the
he
show
did
started late too.
It was dynamite.
Yeah.
It was a great 20. I was
Yeah,
laughing my
I've-
ass off,
I've-
but it was short.
I've seen him. He's a murderer.
Yeah.
He really is. He's a crusher.
Could potentially be a literal murderer. You never know. But no, he was super nice to me. Yeah, and then that the time gets so flexible, which I
Yes.
think is the reason to prepare for the contest, because like comedy will, until you do it for a long time, it will distort your perspective.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where it's you're gonna take it a lot more personally than anybody else around. Because after that, I was so mortified, and because all you're thinking is just like, God, everybody, this is humiliating. Everybody's judging me. Nobody's even thinking about you ever.
No,
Lester's on stage just crushing.
Yeah, right.
Immediately, and then that's even worse because I'm listening to and I'm friends with Lester now, but he was somebody who when I first started, I was just kind of in awe of him because
he's so young and
he's just so
he's fantastic.
Confident on stage.
He was good right away.
Yeah.
There's another person who was good. I saw Mike
Yep.
Lester's first set. I was there for his very first set, and it was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
His mom heckled him.
It's at Comedy Corner Underground, right? Yeah.
Yep. But I was like, damn, this kid is like 15, 16, and he is already funny.
Yes. So there was just all that together, just being like, oh my God, this is. And then that, honestly, I didn't do comedy again until the next summer.
Oh, wow.
So because I was already on a downswing.
You took it hard.
I did big time. Yeah. And I think that actually pushed me back into improv more at that point.
Interesting.
And then it took me, until the next summer, almost a year, probably 9 months, until one night I knew it was like this thing of just kind of waiting for myself to be ready to get back into open mics because I knew I wanted to pursue it. I really did at that point. It was, again, a thing of I'm putting this off because I'm nervous to start this new thing. And then one night I just remember I was on the Stone Arch Bridge on a walk or something or riding my bike, and it was a Wednesday night, and it was Grumpy's, and I'm like, I'm going to Grumpy's tonight. I'm just going to do it. And then I went there, and then I was pretty much fully back in it at that point.
And then after that, because once you started coming out, then you were out. I saw you every night, everywhere.
Yes.
It was like you and Ryan and Tommy.
Yep.
You guys were all hitting it hard all the time.
Yeah. Then I kind of fell in, and that was also a time where there was kind of a shift happening in the scene. There was kind of a new guard taking over. A lot of people were moving, and there was a lot of turnover right then. So that is when I really kind of found like my class of people, which again, it was like Tommy, Bayer, Ryan Call, Ahmed Khalaf, Ira, Courtney. So things started clicking in that sense, and I started actually making friends and enjoying myself aside from being on stage. Like there was another reason to go out.
Yeah.
And so then I did the contest that year, and it just was very meh.
Just fine. But you didn't run your light.
Nope, I did not. I have never run my light here since then. I'm sure I've gone over at the mic. Sorry about that.
Well, you work here now.
You
go over 30 seconds.
Yeah, which I think they've gotten a little bit more lenient about that at the mic too. You have to go over by like quite a bit now to get your mic cut. And which I shouldn't be advertising.
Well,
this.
But we're talking increments of time of like 10, 15 seconds, though.
Yeah.
Because I think
if you're 30 seconds over, the mic's getting cut.
Oh, especially if you're in like early threes.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. But if you're at the 7-minute spot, like if Aiden does an extra minute at 7, they're going to let Aiden do his extra minute.
Which I don't know why you would want to. If you're crushing, for sure.
Yeah.
But, so don't run your light if you are thinking about doing it. Don't run it anywhere. There are some places that are more lenient, but it's still just a hassle for the people who are running the shows, even if you're not going to get your mic cut or like banned. It's just don't do it.
And then you become a headliner, and if you go way too long, it's like they might not cut your mic, but now the wait staff's mad at you because they want to go home and they already dropped the checks and no one's getting paid. It's like just do a good rule of comedy. Ask what your time is and do exactly that.
Yeah.
Just whatever they say 45, 45. They say 35, 30. Just do your fucking time. I'm always baffled by people who can't just do their time.
Yeah. 30 seconds on either side.
Exactly.
And nobody's going to be mad if you, because a lot of people feel like they need to chase something to end on or something like that. Like, unless it's really weird and egregious, nobody's going to care if you're halfway through a joke and then you see it's your time and you go, oh, I don't have enough time. Like
you can still even in the contest, by the way, you can still win the contest if you do that.
Yeah.
If you run your light, you're for sure not winning the contest.
Yeah, it's okay to just stop.
Yeah,
and put a bow on it somehow, but you don't need to do that extra minute to get to that next big punchline.
Yeah,
which a lot of people do it, and as
we'll
a person
chase it
who
for
runs,
5 minutes, and it gets more, it's like digging a deeper hole, and you're like, dude, you're not gonna get him. Just go.
I know.
Just go.
I know. How often do you see somebody just tell a banger of a joke right at the end of their set, and then they try and go for one more, and it's like,
greedy.
What? No.
And anymore, if my new thing hits and I was going to do one old thing, I'm like, fuck it, I'm out.
Exactly. They go, oh, I have 45 seconds left. I should probably milk this for even more. Let me start a 2.5 minute bit. It's like, but that's it's just the frustration of running an open mic creeping.
Yeah,
right
running an open mic.
But yeah, so I mean, then I was kind of fully immersed in it. There was another. I did take a little bit more time off after that. So I got hit by that car.
Right.
Eventually, I got paid from that.
Yeah.
And then I took a very long trip. I took like a 4-month trip to Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, stuff like that. So because I had been wanting to do that, and I quit my job. So that ultimately the thing that kind of really derailed me at the beginning, getting hit by a car and breaking my leg, it allowed me. I got money from that, and then I was able to quit my day job, which was really holding me back from pursuing comedy.
Yeah.
And then travel. And then once I got back from traveling, I got a part-time job somewhere, and then I was just fully doing comedy.
Nice.
Yep. And here we are.
And now you're going to be an MC here
Crazy.
in a couple
Yeah.
of weeks. That's great. Other than not running the light, do you have any advice for contestants?
So the advice would be cut a joke, because they're short sets.
I like that.
They're shorter than you think.
And you're going to
be.
get bigger laughs here than you've ever gotten anywhere.
Yes,
and
that fucked me over.
People don't realize that, like, even in a set that short, if you're getting a 5 to 10 second laugh break, whereas in an open mic you're getting a 2-second laugh break, times 4 jokes, that could be 40 seconds.
Yes.
40 seconds is a huge amount of time in 3 minutes.
It's that joke that you cut.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I wound up doing that. I had I never have said this on the contest. My advice for people, if you have a short joke, I had one short joke that I knew I could do, and so I had 2 endings to my set.
Mm-hmm.
I could end on this, and then if I had the time, I had a little quick popper.
Yeah.
But I knew I could also drop the one-liner
Yes.
if I needed to, and that made me much more comfortable with the light, because like if that light starts flashing,
Mm-hmm.
I ain't doing it. If there's no flashing
Finish.
light, it was such a short joke. I was like, I can get it in and then just run away.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. I would say that, and then, man, advice for the contest?
Yeah.
Honestly, no. I mean, do your best material. It's a short set. Practice.
Yeah.
Go to other open mics. Use the night they give you at Acme, the week of your contest night, and also go save your star. If you're just getting into this to start doing comedy, save your star at Acme. Use it the week before your contest week, then use your contest week, and then perform there. That way you get to, that was something else somebody told me, you get to perform at Acme 3 times in 2 weeks, and then possibly keep moving in the contest, actually.
Yeah.
So, but practice, go to other open mics for sure, because that will give you the experience that you need to just like be in the moment on stage and actually do it.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to your week. I will be out watching
wait.
you and Shane Torres. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this, Grant. Much
Thanks for
appreciated.
having me.
Grant Winkels, thanks again. And come out and see him at Acme.
Yeah.